Yo, what's up with y'all, man? I hope you're doing good. If you're new and you're a fan of the NBA, subscribe to this channel. So let's get straight into it.
Like it's Minute Maid, hijack 4, renegade, 24, number 8, Kobe shit fade away, ballin' since 11th grade, still in school, let them hate.
So as we all know, in every single NBA draft, many things can be found. You have your superstar and franchise-changing specimen that every single GM would sell their souls for. Then you have your all-star caliber prospect who has what it takes to be a part of the process to reach for a championship. And once in a while, you're gonna stumble onto something that you really don't want to get a hold of. And that's your occasional draft bust. No team wants to be associated with that. That is embarrassing. But then you go ahead and get your diamonds in the rough. Now these diamonds aren't easy to find. They're usually surrounded around a whole bunch of dirt, and they tend to be the most overlooked process for some idiotic reason. We call those prospects draft steals, the steals of their draft class. Some of the most notorious steals over the last few years has been guys like Nikola Jokic. He's viewed as a top 3 big man in the league and arguably the best center in the NBA. Mans was the 41st pick in the 2014 NBA draft. Draymond Green and Isaiah Thomas were also second round picks and went on to accomplish some great things in the NBA, of course. The first time All-Star Pascal Siakam was the 27th overall pick in the NBA draft. He was a steal as well. Watching these steals flourish in the NBA is one of my favorite flexes of all time, because all these dudes were underdogs, and who doesn't love a good old classic underdog story? You're looking at one right now. So even though we may not have enough time to determine who was the steal of the 2019 NBA draft so far, we definitely have candidates already, and plenty of new ones will bloom out of nowhere in a year or two from now. It's time we discuss just who it might be right now though, so let's explore it. Going into the 2019 NBA draft, I recall many thinking that this draft was relatively weak compared to the ones in recent history. It was proclaimed to be a top-heavy draft, and even I myself let that talk contaminate my head. Now through this draft process, as usual, I spoke on several players who were underrated and who could be draft steals. And yeah, I definitely did get a couple things right so far in the NBA draft, and I might have just gotten a couple things wrong too. Now that I think about it, I may have not been as vocal about certain players, at least not as vocal as I should have. Not to brag or boast or flex my accomplishments so far about the NBA draft, but whenever I talk about the Memphis Grizzlies or the NBA draft in general, I always find a way, some way, somehow to squeeze in the Memphis Grizzlies, and I always find a way to talk about that man Brandon Clark. Every single thing that I thought he would be and do in this league, he has done already at a high level as well. But to start this off, this man Tyler Hero was most definitely a lottery pick, right? He most definitely was, so I'm not sure how much of a bargain pick that he is, and whether or not the term steal perfectly suits someone who was a highly touted prospect coming out of college. When you think about the term steal, you think about someone who hasn't been talked about. You have to think about someone who brought their name up into the light by force with their performance, with no help by the media. In my opinion, Matisse Thybulle and Brandon Clark fit that role much better than Tyler Hero, so he's kind of booted out of this conversation. They were the 20th and 21st pick in the NBA draft, and if it wasn't for their age, they probably would have been closer to the lottery rather than towards the end of it. Brandon Clark's case was that he was just teammates with a Japanese sensation in Rui Hachimura, and he was overshadowed heavily even though his game would make an immediate impact on the court and had a historical college season that year, rather than Rui, who had the much more prettier game and was the offensive stud out of the two. So calling Brandon Clark a steal isn't a reach at all. And as for Matisse Thybulle, to be honest, bro, to be completely honest with you, I did not know who the hell this man was before his name got called onto that stage. I literally had no idea he even existed until draft night. So that's saying a heck of a lot considering that the NBA draft basically runs through my veins. So he also can broadcast himself as the steal of the draft in just a few years to come. If and only if though he brings his game to the next level. Eric Paschall for the Warriors, outside of D'Angelo Russell for 33 games, has been the most exciting and probably the only reason why fans even go out to watch their games this season. Mans was the 41st pick in the NBA draft, selected in the 2nd round, and he's on his way to making an All-NBA first team spot right now. He's currently averaging 13 points, 5 boards, and 2 assists on solid efficiency. He's looking like a very valuable piece for the Warriors, whether he's traded or not in the future. He, out of all the players that I've mentioned so far in this video, has the strongest case to be labeled as the steal of the draft this year and probably years to come. But hold on, this video just can't end here because Eric Paschall has some competition for that title. There's one prospect that I haven't mentioned nor talked about who is much different from the rest. He's literally damn near everything you'd envision as a draft steal to be. He was incredibly disrespected and talented, but discredited because of the stigma that surrounded his name. He has the swagger and just the I told you so type aura that screams steal. His playstyle, cockiness, storyline, pixelation, and potential is a combination of things no other other prospect I've labeled so far has. None of these dudes had it as bad as this guy. Coming out of high school, one of the most electrifying, popular, and polarizing players was Kevin Porter Jr. He had that NBA ready type body as a senior already. Mans was much quicker, stronger, and faster than everyone else on the court almost at all times. That intertwined with his talent and skill allowed him to average a cool 27, 14, and 5 as a starter in high school, thus being the reason why he was one of the most electrifying high school players during the year 2018. He was must-see TV and just brought that fun, intensity, and energy to every matchup, which helped him rank as a 4-star recruit by ESPN. So everything ended up playing out real cool and smooth for MPJ. Mans got offered from big time schools like UCLA, Oregon, and Washington, but ultimately decided to go to USC, which might have been a curse and a blessing at the same time. Curse because during his tenure there, his draft stock would see a constant riffraff. He'd have plenty of highs and started off his college career fairly well, but injuries would prevent him from showing his talent on the court on a consistent basis. He missed over 10 games and ended his athletic career in one of the most hurtful ways to his draft stock. Mans got suspended during the season, and that is the main reason why he was the 30th pick in the 2019 NBA draft. Now, nobody knows what specifically took place and why the Trojans wanted to separate themselves from such a talent. That didn't make any sense because of how talented he was, so whatever happened may have just been that bad. Too bad, we'll never know, but for all we know, this situation could have been just blown out of the proportion. So many teams passed up on what was viewed as from the start a top 10 draft pick because of potential off-court issues. I remember when fans of sorry teams used to pray that they got their hands on this dude right here because of his jaw-dropping offensive prowess. Prior to this incident, many projected that he would be the 7th, 8th, and 9th, 10th, worst case scenario 13th pick in the draft. But all that talk all of a sudden just disappeared into thin air. And on draft night is when I believe the blessing started to kick in. Him seeing his own name drop selection after selection after selection made it known to him and sort of slapped him back into reality that yeah, he has all this potential and he's physically gifted and more skilled without a doubt than a handful of the guys selected before him. He had all those things going for him, but it just took a minor off the court incident for scouts to lose all interest. That should have and probably did light a fire under him, one of the most dangerous fires that could be implanted into all hoopers. This is the narrative that he's been running with, and that has been a blessing in disguise. After all the bad rumors permeating his name about whether or not he could do things within the concept of a team, that's just gonna make him work even harder. Why, you might ask? Well, it's because he had to. Nobody wants to prove their daughters right. KPJ has had one of the most interesting but uncovered storylines. Well, why is it uncovered? Well, I mean, he plays for the Cleveland Cavaliers, and if anybody hasn't known, Cleveland reeks! Nobody wants to see Tristan Thompson, Jetty Osman, Kevin Love, and Andre Drummond being coached by JB Bickerstaff. I mean, if some of y'all do it, hey, trust me, I'm not judging, but I mean, I'm just speaking for the majority. What's interesting is that out of all the young players that Cleveland has, KPJ is the one with the most potential out of all of them. Not Colin Sexton, not Darius Garland, or anyone else you can think of. His 6'4" stocky and explosive frame can surpass anything and everything else that Cleveland has to offer. He's the exact type of two guard that a struggling organization like Cleveland needs. Kevin has shown already that he has the offensive intensity and defensive intensity to potentially be an all-star in this league. He's electric, flashy, confident, and has all these finesse moves in his artillery. He makes those type of plays that'll have you standing up out of your seat with your jaw dropped. He's a walking highlight reel with all-star potential. The potential to be labeled as the steal of the draft when we look back at this 10 years from now. The 30th overall pick, KPJ, has been on a tear these last 7 games. He's been averaging 16 points on 52% shooting from the field and 50% from 3 on 5 attempts. He has the potential and vision to be an above average passer one day. His scoring is there. There's nothing he can't do on the offensive side of the ball really well. His defense has been coming together as the year has progressed. What can you not like out of this 30th overall pick? This is what a whole bunch of scouts decided to pass up on draft night. What a tragedy. This is the end of the video though, man. I really do appreciate you for coming over here on my channel and seeing what I have to talk about today. That's extremely dope of you for even just to click on this video. I appreciate you. Before you go ahead and leave, I really need you to actually share this video with at least one of your friends, okay? I know I'll be saying share the videos, and I know y'all don't be sharing the videos. I'm not stupid, but for real this time, share this video with at least one of your friends, 2 if you're real. But yeah, man, I appreciate you for everything. Make sure you go ahead and like, share, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. Turn on your Mojofication bell because I'm starting to get into my bag. And yeah, man, out of everything that I just said, oh yeah, also check out the Apply Pressure release because it's gone this month, and also subscribe to the Hoopscast right there. But out of everything I said, I want you to make sure that you make your day great. But until then, I'll get right with you.
No way, no way. Remember back when I couldn't get a play. No home, I ain't have a place to stay. I got to work, made it serve free to way. Told my girl who that